Well, hello and welcome to Transform Tuesday. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software. And I've been away on a little mini vacation for a few days over the weekend, but I have a little mini Transform Tuesday to present to you today. So that should be pretty good. I'm also here to answer your questions, which you can type in the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. Also, as a reminder, you can always submit questions to tfservice@alphasoftware.com. So here are a couple of things that I thought might be of interest to you today. One is sort of a review of whitelisting, which is something you can do to include assets from websites into HTML blocks in Alpha Anywhere. The other is the idea of generating QR codes, that is, as opposed to reading them using an API. So I've been playing around with that a little bit over the last couple of days. I think it's pretty cool. Let's take a look. So let me go ahead down here into this website. This is a website for a company called founddata.com. It's a German company, and they offer this API. For the life of me, I can't exactly figure out how these folks make money, except that I think that what they do is they print QR codes onto things like t-shirts and logos and mugs and things like that. But they have an API that you can use, it seems for free, at least for basic stuff. And it's really easy. You actually just post everything right here. So here you like call the URL. It just gives you this little image, this little sample URL right here. Let me just whoop. And you can find that at goqr.me. So you can go ahead, feel free to explore that website. So I thought that would be pretty cool to see if we could get it to maybe enter in something into TransForm and have it take that data, turn it into a QR code that could then be displayed on a screen. And you can imagine there might be a bunch of different reasons. You might have another device that would then read your TransForm screen. It might also be cool, I'm not going to show you this today, but to be able to capture that image so that maybe you could use it to print out stickers or something if you want to label stuff with that QR code later on. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. The other thing, I'm just going to go ahead and open up my phone. And I'm having some issues today with screen mirroring, but let me see if it's gonna behave now that the time is on. So tap screen mirroring, and here we go. Okay, so while that's trying to load, if it doesn't load, that's fine. I actually made screenshots of it because I came prepared today. let me get to this first question. The question is, in the release notes, they described that we fixed a bug included in the version and that the scan button is now disabled if the field is configured to automatically open the scanner when the value is blank. How does this impact existing forms? I may have ones that use the scan feature. The answer is it's not going to impact your existing forms, at least it shouldn't on the mobile filler. The point behind that, we got it working, cool. Finally, a little slow, but it's here. Oops, where did it go? All right, I guess we'll play it right here. In the browser filler, that's where we've actually made the improvement. And that's because right now the browser-based filler, in other words, the Transform Central that you have running on in a web page, it can access the photo, but at the moment it isn't able to read QR codes. So if it sees a QR code, it doesn't know what to do with it. So instead of trying to open the scanner, it lets you type in a QR code or a barcode number. Probably not a QR code because you wouldn't be able to read it, but barcodes have got the numbers underneath them that you can type in. So that's been a change, but we do plan to add actual barcode scanning and QR code scanning into the web version as well. So let me show you this. This is really simple. This says QR text, and I'm going to tap here, and I'm going to just type in QWERTY or something like that. And I'm going to say show QR code. And here we go. Oh. All right, you know what? I think I've lost web connection. Honestly, this worked like a champ before. You would have seen the QR code right here. It wouldn't just be spinning and spinning, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but it does work. I'm going to show you how I wired it up so you can do it yourself. Let me see. Oh, I'm going to read a little bit more because there's another question that came in about no problem with the delay. Ah, okay. Sorry. This is actually a different thing in the release notes than the one I was talking about. It is true that in the web-based filler, you don't have the scan option, and so it lets you type in a thing. But the bug that we fixed was that there was a long delay before launching the scanner, and sometimes it was long enough that the person could tap the scan button a second time, which would cause an error message. So what this does is it basically traps the first time. So it looks to see if it's blank before it goes any further. So it doesn't actually change anything there. It's just a usability improvement. It may have been worded oddly in the release notes. Also, I want to welcome today Sarah Mitchell, who's our Director of Customer Success and in charge of our documentation department, who's here answering these questions behind the scenes. All right, so that completely failed to open, but I'm not going to give up. We're going to show you another example. And this one is going to have to do with the whitelisting of assets that come from external websites. So I've got a block down here that you can't see, an HTML block, and it's supposed to display a picture, and that picture can come from one of 3 different sources, and I've actually attached buttons to those sources. So let me go ahead and click on one of them. I'm going to click cat, and there's a picture of a cat, dog, and a bird. And these are actually being stored on an external website, but when I made that choice, I was able to display these right into HTML blocks. And in order to do that, I had to do some whitelisting, which is something we require you to do for security reasons when you're putting things into your HTML. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover these 2 things: how to generate a QR code, one that actually works, and I'm also going to show you how to use the whitelisting so you can include those assets into your TransForm forms. So let me pop back here over to PowerPoint. And actually, let me just do it as a live demo, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to open up Safari here. And let me close down my browser. Still not working as well as I like, which is weird because my phone is actually hardwired to Ethernet. So I think maybe something happened when my operating system got updated over the weekend. I'll need to check that out. Let me go ahead and just hold on a moment, just a bit of housekeeping. I'm gonna go ahead and promote Sarah so that she is one of our organizers here, so she can see your questions and answer them in the background. Okay, great. All right, so let's take a look at today's form. It's a simple one, as they usually are. It's got a field called QR text. That's where you type in the value of the text. There's a button called Show QR Code, and that opens up a window which shows you your QR text as it's been encoded into a QR code. The other thing we have is a field called Animal, which is a button list, and it's got 3 choices: cat, dog, and bird. And I've got an HTML object below here, which you can't see, but is defined to take that value from Animal and append or prepend a URL to it. And I'll show you where that URL comes from so that you could see the images down here when you click on each of the buttons. All right, so let's go take a look first at what we did for this. It required a little bit of TPL to do the QR code text, but not very much. So to begin with, you can get to the TPL, the TransForm programming language, by selecting your form, going here into Properties, and under Advanced Features, I'll just open it up here for you. You'll need to say Enable Custom Code for this form type. By default, it's set to No, which means that Edit Custom Code is disabled. So I'm going to click Yes and click Edit Custom Code. And I'm going to go over here to Show QR Code. This is the event for the Show QR Code button. And it's actually really simple. Let me see if I can make this window a little bit bigger. There we go. And I'm going to make the text a little bit bigger so I can show you what I've done. So when you click the button, it runs this one little snippet of TPL code using something called in-app browser. And so in-app browser is basically a function that opens up a browser on the mobile device and lets you display the contents of a URL. And in this case, my URL is computed, And oops, yeah, okay. And it is computed by taking this value here, HTTPS API QRserver.com, which was the example that I showed you just at the very beginning of this presentation. And then I append to that the value that's in QR text. So if I typed in the word QWERTY, the in-app browser would submit to this API the value of QWERTY, and it would return the web page showing you that QR code. Now, in-app browser is cool for a lot of stuff. If, for example, on most devices, if you set it to Google driving directions, you'll be able to automatically, or set it to a map address in Google. You'll be able to automatically not only call up the map, but call up driving directions as well. I've got an example of that, which you could find here in the user's guide. And I think it's also in documentation as well, but I'm going to find it here real quick. Sorry about that. Let me grab that user's guide. Excuse me a second. Here we go. And I've got actually a nice screenshot of that, which is why I wanted to show this to you. So let's go over here. And if I recall, it is down on page 127. Oops, too far. Too far. Oh yeah, here we go. This is what I'm looking for. So in this example, we used Google Maps, and we had it basically open up an address. We said navigate to site. When we push the button, it opens up the map by basically just opening up a URL and pointing it to this address in Google. And Google is smart enough to offer you turn-by-turn directions or to show you where you are on the map and things like that. So a lot of the actual functionality is given to you for free by Google. We just tap into it by using the in-app browser feature. Pretty sure everyone here has got a copy of this, but if you would like a copy of this user's guide, let me just go ahead and toss that into the chat window so that you can access it. Okay, where did my chat window go? Oh, missing my chat window. Go to webinar control panel. There we go. All right, chat window. Chat. Now, this in-app browser is not supported right now in the web filler, although you probably don't have quite as many need for it, but we may think about adding this in the future should there be some demand. So you can't use it in the browser-based filler, but you could still use it right there on the mobile app, which is where I think a lot of people are using that. Okay, so that's in-app browser, and that's how I called a service, whether it be a map or an API generator. So I've got that kind of wrapped up. Let's go take a look at the other thing that I wanted to show you today, and that was how to whitelist something in your settings so that you can show images, for example, in HTML blocks in TransForm. So right here, I've got a HTML block, and you'll see it's really simple. It just says image source equals. Most of you are familiar with the image tag. That's just where you put in the URL to tell what image you would like to have displayed. And normally this is like an HTTPS something / file name. But we've done it a little bit different here because for security reasons, we don't let you put slashes. I don't think we let you put in question marks or equal signs or ampersands or some other things as well into your HTML blocks. It is for your safety that we have that. There are some things that you could do with hacking. So instead, what we do is we make sure that we have these things whitelisted for you. And to do that, I'm going to show you where you do that. Let's go back to the Home tab. And on the Home tab, which I think really could be called Settings, we're going to go down here to Developer Options. And we're going to tap on or click on Define On-Device Assets. And you'll see that's divided into two groups. The actual on-device assets, these are the files that can be loaded onto your phone for offline use. But there's another thing called policy, and policy has got a couple of things. One of the things that policy does is it determines when those assets are included on your phone. We're not interested in that right now. What we're interested in, though, is something called path prefixes. So my path prefix are basically names that I've given to some HTML to the URLs that I want to include. So for example, this is the beginning of the URL to show that cat, that dog, or the bird picture. https / and then all this stuff here. Now you can't put that right into an HTML block for the security reason that I just outlined. But what you can do instead is you can reference an alias to this place. And that's what we've done here is we've set up basically a path alias. So if we type in animals dot, let me go back into Designer, animals dot, when it is run, it replaces that URL with with the full length of the string. Then in here, we have a curly brace, $ animal, close curly brace. The curly braces indicate that this is going to be TPL. The $ indicates that we would like to get a field value, and the word animal is the name of the field. So when I set up that field, let me click on the list items. I gave you 3 choices, cat, dog, and bird, and each one of them resolved to a different file name. Cat is tfcat.jpg, dog tfdog.jpg, bird tfbird.jpg. So when I choose a particular one of those and click on it in the list, my HTML is automatically updated with the animal that I selected. So just as a quick review, if you want to use URLs in your HTML blocks, you need to whitelist them first, and you do that in path prefixes, and you give it an alias, and then you include the path followed by a trailing / at the end. And it looks like while I've been doing this, Sarah's been putting some pretty helpful links here into the chat window, telling you more about on-device asset policies, whitelisting, and more. So at this point, I'm just wondering, are there any questions? It doesn't look like it. Well, as always, you can send questions to tfservice@alphasoftware.com. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. Thanks, Sarah, for being here and helping out. Hope to see you next Tuesday. Until then, take care and stay well. Bye-bye.